Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Iron Icon where we go around the ecosystem and interview our builders. And I'm excited to have Scott with me on the show. We all know Scott works for the foundation, works around BTP stuff, is pretty much the go-to man for everything related to balanced, although he coordinates with a much bigger team, I'm sure of it, but he is front and center dealing with it all. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, Fez. Always good to be here. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, look, it's been a while. Just the other week, I was sitting going, man, what is wrong with me? I haven't had Scott on the show for you went from literally weekly community sessions to just MIA. So sorry, that was poor form on my part, but happy to have you on the show, man.
I'll forgive you, Fez. I forgive you. It's all
Excellent,
right.
excellent. Okay, so today I wanted to get you on the show. We have a ton of stuff happening around balanced and then BTP, but we're going to talk about BTP a bit later. I want to focus and zone in on balanced, and I'm not going to go through the whole spiel who you are. So everyone knows who you are, and if you don't, watch some past episodes. We'll figure out who Scott is. First things first, balance. There's a lot changing market conditions, but I want to talk about that separately. First, I want to ask the Java migration. How is that going? How's that coming along?
Yeah, that is going well. We're spending a little more time than maybe we would have during all the hype cycles and things like that. Spending a little more time on doing as much testing as possible, like building more automated testing frameworks that could be actually used for other Icon apps in the future, like automated integration testing. But yeah, all in all, we're still shooting to deploy at the very least the core contracts in Java by the end of the month. That's the target currently.
Okay. Now, yes, that's great. I know it's taken a bit longer, but I wanted to actually ask, because it's a huge shift in what your existing team, see your devs who built in Python, now they're having to redo everything in Java. It would have been a learning curve, and I wanted to get a bit of a sense what it's been like for the team in the background to redo all of this in Java.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate that. It definitely set us back quite a bit in terms of like launching new features and stuff. Like the learning curve is there, and really what ended up happening was this like implementation and review bottleneck,
Yep.
where like we had maybe a couple of developers who knew the Java contracts very well,
Mhm.
but we can only have if someone implements a contract, right? They actually write the code, then someone else has to review it, or else
Yep.
there's no point to the review. You can't review
Yep.
your own code. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
So we definitely hit that bottleneck where we were having just we could scale to have a lot of people, like writing a lot of contracts, but then like we couldn't allocate resources properly of, reviewing and writing contracts at the same time.
Yep.
But we did solve that by grabbing a developer from the community who has been absolutely amazing, and really excited to have him part of the team.
Awesome. Okay. So it's almost like initially, even though you had some subject matter experts, it was a way of working set up that caused a little bit of commotion to get through.
Right. Yeah. I mean, pretty much if code review like wasn't a thing and it was just common practice to just like write code and deploy it, then it wouldn't have been such a big hurdle. It was
Mm.
the, implementation and review process that they need to be like two separate people that made it more difficult to scale.
Okay. Excellent. And you mentioned you mentioned that in this now you're kind of taking the time and they're building these automated testing suites and stuff like that. So that future is that around to ensure there's more vigorous testing and things like that for future deployments and things?
Yeah, I could maybe break it down for you in a really simple way. They're called integration tests, and it is exactly what it sounds like, right? You have like individual tests of like, all right, we have like the BNUSD contract, right? The
Yeah.
token contract. An individual test would be just testing like the functions on that contract, like transferring tokens, right? That's like very isolated. An
Yeah.
integration test is like we deploy everything, and then we have like the balanced collateral contract, the loans contract, call mint on the BNUSD function to mint BNUSD for a borrower. So that's an integration test. It's two contracts interacting with each other.
Yep.
And doing that can be like a very manual process without, and that's what it has been in the past, right? Is we would just like deploy the contracts, and then we would manually call all of these interactions. Like you would, trigger, like, send all these transactions that cause these interactions and have to kind of manually do that stuff. And what we've been doing now is something that, like, as soon as you open the pull request, like this is the end goal that we're getting to, is as soon as you open a pull request, it'll like deploy an icon node, deploy all of the contracts along with like the new code that you just deployed, and send all of those transactions that all the contracts will interact with each other every possible way, and we'll know if anything broke. So those are like super important and things that like you would normally have probably in like a traditional Web 2 development environment of like testing all of your components together. So that's what we've been working on, is like better integration testing frameworks.
Okay, cool. No, great. I wanted to spend some time actually talking around that, because I feel the focus is like Java contracts, when, but some of the biggest, it's a huge change from all perspectives. So thanks for sharing a bit of insight into that. Now, Scott, so let's talk about the markets. The markets, obviously have turned. The original big shift that we had a while back, we saw quite a lot of liquidations and things happen, and then we saw the balance team actively work on getting a ton of content out there so people understood the rebalancing mechanisms and how all that works. Now we've seen a sudden shift again in the market environment. I haven't been as close to what's happened on balance, but what I understand is it didn't. Well, what transpired this? Let me put it to you. What did you observe this round?
All right. So yeah, I mean, not really like from rebalancing this time, but just more from market price movements. There were considerable amount of liquidations. I think it was around 1.3 million ICX in liquidations during the last market drop. So that's like quite a bit. And what happens is that there's like there has to be an incentive to like pay off the debt of these people who got liquidated, right?
Yeah.
So the way balanced works is there's like a 10% bonus. So if you pay off 100 BNUSD worth of liquidated debt, you'll get like $110 worth of ICX from their liquidated position, right?
Yeah.
So what that does is like that drives up the demand of BNUSD, because if you're paying $1.05 for the BNUSD and the liquidated collateral is giving you $1.10, then it still makes sense to overpay for BNUSD.
Yep.
So that was breaking the peg, and since it was like so many liquidations, and I mean the fix or the new feature that was deployed really helped the situation a lot. Should I go? Yeah.
Yes,
did I
please.
answer your question?
No, you
Okay.
did. You did. And this is just an overview of what transpired. But from what I understand, this time though, was rebalancing as aggressive as last time, or
it wasn't as aggressive, no, and it wasn't like the sole, or not the sole cause, but it wasn't like a major contributor to the liquidations. It was much more the just price drop of ICX so rapidly. That contributed to it. But then, I mean, rebalancing was happening like fairly regularly, but the community for the most part seemed to have a handle on it. Like, this happened once before, like way more aggressively. So kind of people knew what to expect for the most part. So rebalancing was happening, and I put out a tweet thinking about like what the best solution is, and I put out a proposal called the Balance Stability Fund. I was originally planning on, instead of having the Balance Stability Fund, I was thinking that we would just have USDS and IUSDC be a collateral type on the balance loans contract. But like that, it's taking a while to upgrade the loans contract to Java, and then also add this new feature of multi-collateral. So I was thinking like, what can we do like right now with the market conditions the way that they are? And how can we solve this problem now, before we finish the Java migration, before without having to develop like some brand new feature for an existing contract. So that's where the Stability Fund came into play, because it was a fairly isolated feature. The only other contract that it touches is BNUSD. So through this process, we did need to upgrade BNUSD to Java. So that is on mainnet and done. And what we did is we added another contract with minting authority for BNUSD. So originally it was just loans.
Yep.
And now the stability fund has minting and burning authority on the BNUSD contract. And the stability fund is very simple but powerful. And what it does is it takes in, it has a white list of coins. All right. The white list is currently Orbit Bridge USDC and USDS.
Mm-hmm.
And those tokens, it's very easy to use. If you send a whitelisted token to the stability fund, it mints you 1-for-1 BNUSD minus a small fee, which is currently 0.5%. So what this allowed people to do was, instead of like having to dump ICX to get BNUSD, like breaking the BNUSD peg, it allowed people to bring USDC in from exchanges, convert it to BNUSD at like near 1-for-1 price instead of on the balanced DEX where the price was like way out of whack, and pay off that bad debt using USDC. So it allowed like for much easier arbitrage essentially, and rebalancing like kind of becomes really a last resort mechanism that I really don't expect to see happen for quite some time.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk through. Just play it out. So BNUSD becomes more valuable. It's now $1.05, and I want to use the new stability fund. I know the UI isn't built. We'll touch on that a bit later. But so how would I arb this situation? Is it I would come in with my
All right, let's walk through a couple.
Yeah.
Let's walk through a
Perfect,
couple. All right,
perfect.
the first one. All right, let's say that USDC is like really cheap against BNUSD, right? Like if you spend, you have to spend $1.10 USDC to get 1 BNUSD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it was. All right, so what you would do is, instead of going to the DEX, you would take your USDC, you'd take 100 USDC, you'd send it to the stability fund, you'd get back 99.5 BNUSD.
Yep.
And then you can use that 99.5 BNUSD to buy more USDC from the DEX. You'll end up with, let's say, 110 USDC. You do that again. You send the 110 USDC to the stability fund. You get 110 BNUSD. You sell that for USDC. You maybe have 115 now, 120, right? And then that cycle is like can be infinitely looped essentially.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where it's above, or below. So in the scenario where it's below peg.
No, this is when it's above peg, right?
Yes,
Sorry,
that's right.
It gets hard to think, right?
Yeah. So this one is above peg. So now let's talk through below peg. How would this work?
Okay, so below peg, you would do the reverse. All right, so because this started when BNUSD was above peg, the stability fund probably has around $2 million worth of stablecoins in it now. Okay, so if BNUSD is ever at 95 cents, you can put like 1 BNUSD into the stability fund. You'll get back, or let's say 100, right? You put 100 BNUSD into the stability fund, you get back 99.5 USDC. You swap that on the DEX for BNUSD, you'll end up with, let's say, 110. However much the peg is broken. Yeah. And then you just wash, rinse, repeat. Now, the stability fund can run out of stablecoins, right? Because it only stablecoins fill up in the stability fund when the peg is broken above $1, and they start to deplete when the peg is broken below $1. So that's kind of how the functionality works.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So because before all we had was rebalancing. So now with this, like you said, we should see it alleviate a lot of the rebalancing. And in these terrible swings, it will probably attract more arbors with being able to pull. Now
there is full circle arbitrage now, which is pretty awesome. Like the USDC, pretty much I would never really expect, except for maybe brief moments, if there was like extreme volatility in ICX price, I would never really expect to see, I'm going to call it buy side rebalancing happening again, where it's like buying ICX for you and minting, like giving you more debt and buying more ICX, which like I thought people would like that more than the sell side rebalancing, but it definitely gets a little scary when it
Yeah.
happens so much.
Yeah. Quite
So
quickly. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
right, yeah, and I really just don't expect that to happen again. It would really have to be a wild fluctuation. We would
Mm.
have to. Oh, one thing about the stability fund is we do have like caps on the amount of stable coins that it can take in,
Okay.
simply for like security reasons, right? Like if Orbit Bridge got hacked or
Mm.
something like that, we wouldn't want someone to be able to infinitely mint BNUSD. So
Yeah.
there are some caps. We can raise those caps, like if they get hit, and that would again alleviate all like this buy side pressure where there's not enough BNUSD to service all the bad debt to like service the demand, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
happens when it's overpriced. So
So now, based on this, now that you implemented this, would you look at, because you mentioned minting, like, because the other solution was you add USDC and other
as
stables
collateral,
as,
right?
yes, exactly. So do you think you'll still go down that path, or would you the team look to prioritize, say, using ETH or BNB or some of those other collateral types when the, or is it as simple as once that multi-collateral contract is ready, it's easy to add different tokens to it?
So that it is both, right? Like once we have multi-collateral, we will be able to add, arbitrary types. But I
Yep.
think the DAO and like, the community, there's really no need. It's kind of redundant to have it as a collateral type. And it also will like, we'll miss out on some fees because the stability fund generates like 0.5% of fees in both directions, while the, borrowing BNUSD is only in one direction.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I don't think it'll really be necessary to add stablecoin collateral types in the future. Like the stability fund gets the
Yeah.
job done much more efficiently.
Yeah. Okay. And the stability fund will literally be stables, right? So
Only stables, yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then finally, so now look, I like painting picture. I realize what all this means. So at the moment, yes, we have a partnership with Orbit Bridge, and thank you, they're great. But as time goes on and Icon Bridge adoption grows and things like that, the team would probably look to utilize, I'm guessing, stable coins bridge via Icon Bridge.
Yeah,
And yeah.
absolutely. I'm actually excited for that. Yeah, because the cost of arbitrage might go down with these different. It looks like if you look at BNUSD price right now, the cost of arbitrage is probably around 3%, since it's like pretty steady at $1.03 right now.
Yeah.
As people are still trying to like unwind their positions.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like using Icon Bridge, getting BUSD in there, it's going to be
Mm.
other. You really have to be kind of stringent with I don't think that's the right word, but smart
Yeah.
with the stable coins that you approve there.
Yeah, definitely.
So
It's not about getting unlimited stable. It's more, for me, it was more, yeah, say BUSD is a good one.
yeah,
You got,
it's a good use case for the Icon Bridge for sure. Like
yeah.
we brought in, I think, yeah, like I said, like around 2 million worth of stables. Just right when the stability fund launched, there was like a ton of arbitrage opportunities
Mm.
that people were taking advantage of. It brought in, yeah, probably like 2 million in volume. It's something, like it's definitely nice to see that happening in action.
Definitely. And did the team bootstrap the stability fund? The word sometimes it doesn't come out right.
No, it started empty, right? It's
Okay.
like there was a lot of arbitrage where you would, if BNUSD was at like $1.10, $1.12, so you were essentially having USDC at $1.10, $1.12, because you can mint BNUSD with USDC at 1 for 1. So
Yeah. Yeah.
people are bringing that in from exchanges and swapping it for more USDC or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
or more
No.
ICX, and doing that trade.
I think it's perfect. Scott, between us, and sometimes if you've not listened to some of I do get quite vocal. I was very vocal about the rebalancing aspect, and me and you've shared many conversations around it.
Right.
So this is fantastic. I think I just love the implementation of it, the fact that it was so simple. So the final piece then is, because at the moment it's interacting on contract level, isn't it? Is there, how long till we see a UI so that um
Oh, true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, you can use it. You can go from USDC or USDS to BNUSD through the current interface because it's so easy to use. You just go to the wallet section and
Oh,
you
okay.
just send your tokens to the stability fund and it'll credit you the BNUSD. I've done it a bunch of
Oh,
times
okay.
myself.
It's that. Okay, okay. Oh, look, I may have to get out a quick tutorial
Yeah,
around
give it a
that
little
too.
test, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, give it
yeah,
a little test. I mean, the UI is coming shortly.
yeah.
They're just like working on the design, Parrot 9, the perfectionists.
Yep, yep.
But the design is almost done, and it shouldn't take very long to implement. It's like very easy. So I'm excited for it to be in the UI, so everyone can go both directions. Because you can't go the other direction through the UI because you need to choose like USDS or USDC if you're burning
yeah,
BNUSD. You need to pick which token you want. So
yeah.
what is it? Then yeah, I mean, for me, the most exciting part, honestly, is just like not really having to think about rebalancing as like the primary stability mechanism,
Mm,
and we can really start talking about that in the Icon community and other communities about how rebalancing is just not like such a core component of it now. It's more of a last resort thing, and of course, can still happen,
mm.
but
So,
it's much less likely and not something that you would expect to see happening very often or nearly as severely, especially on the buy side, right? The
yeah,
upside
yeah,
when
yeah.
it goes up. But and if you get de-risked and your collateral is sold, yeah, people didn't like that. But in the end, if you look at what ended up happening when Balance first launched, that happened a lot, and a ton of early Balanced users were selling their ICX collateral at like $2-3. So
Yeah. Yep. No, no, definitely. And I did have a one out for a very long time. And overall, yes, during that first sudden crash, I had a tiny loan on it, but it did basically, because for a long time it just
balloon,
kept
right?
selling, right? But
Yeah.
then it literally bought everything back, and I had my stash. So it worked in that way. Worked out for me. But I see your point. Yeah, it's great. So then, Scott, I was I wanted to ask a little bit more around balance. So this mechanism does that. That's great. We do have a lot of stable coin pairs, and now we're seeing a bit of a few teams building a few other AMMs. Has the team thought about uh, the stablecoin pools having a different fee structure? Like I've seen a lot of dexes kind of adopt a style of it's their normal, like what I'm getting at is we know the concentrated liquidity and stuff that's coming with the other decks being built, but has Balance given thought of concentrated liquidity or like curve style like for like pairs so that it's a much lower trading fee? Is any of that on the cards?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely in the cards. I think like the stability fund can also, I mean, it's infinite liquidity at 50 or 0.5% off market.
Yeah,
Um, Near infinite liquidity, not infinite. But yeah, so
but that
that's definitely like like I think we can kind of work in tandem with
mm,
these other uh protocols that people can take advantage of arbitrage using the stability fund against these other exchanges. And also, I'm sure we'll add like curve pricing mechanisms.
yeah.
We probably won't add like the multi asset pools, like having like a 4 pool or a 3 pool or a 7 pool or
No,
whatever.
no, no. Look, pair for pair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Because essentially that 0.05, isn't that the fee curve charge on stable swaps as well?
it is. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stability fund is 0.5, not 0.05, but curve is
Ah,
0.06, I think.
okay, okay, okay. So it's missing
And
one of the
also, Fez,
zeros.
just to sound more financy, it's 6 basis points, 50 basis points. The term that is eluding us here is basis points.
Ah, basis point. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never referred to it like
yeah.
that.
It's just a
No.
lot easier to say, right? Like
Yeah.
the stability fund charges 50 basis points versus 0.5%.
Yeah, cool, cool. Because look, again, yeah, the opportunities really open up. Well, this leads into the next question. Okay, so Scott, that's great. I really today, honestly, wanted to have you on the show, and I just wanted to really break down this mechanic because I find when you talk it through both ways, then it can click. Like my brain is like that. It'll click one way, and then all of a sudden it'll break apart. Even though it's just the reverse, it'll just fall apart when I'm trying to do it the other way. So thank you, and that has really helped me, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people listening to this episode. Then the next thing I wanted to lead on to, and I've hinted with icon bridge value prop, etc., etc. But I've also seen the balance team was it you or someone drop a little bit of alpha here and there with the UI, amended UI of moving tokens across chains. Is this something Balance is going to do soon? Is it more? Could you tell us what type of functionality that the team is thinking about utilizing there?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about balance that I like is, I mean, we're trying to think about like why do people want to stay in our app, right?
Yeah.
Like adding the charts, the trading view functionalities now. We
Yeah.
actually had a community member just made arbitrary charts, so we could have charts like a balanced against BALN against OMM charts as well. Like that should be coming. I'm excited about
Awesome.
that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this is just another feature about like how to keep people within the app. So it's just going to be an interface for Icon Bridge within the Balanced app. And yes, we are working on that. And yeah, just waiting for Icon Bridge. The front end for these things is quite difficult. Trying to implement like multiple wallets within one interface gets a little more difficult, but or multiple wallets for different blockchains specifically. And yeah, so yeah, we're working on it. And
I
it
can
will
feel
come.
Peter.
Yeah.
I can already feel like
Yeah.
it's all of a sudden, you say that of Peter, I can sense Peter hovering over me thinking, configuring how it's going to work. Okay, so,
Yeah.
and essentially it'll use that UI to do the token transfers. So moving, say, balance, hypothetically balanced onto Binance Smart Chain. And why go to the front end of Icon Bridge when you can literally stay in balance and facilitate the transfer back and forth.
And then trade right away, right?
Yeah,
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, cool. So that was a little bit I wanted to get clarity on. And no, I think that was it. That was all I had. So the next thing, parking balance. So I think that's a solid balanced update. Unless, Scott, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't covered or you feel needs a bit of attention, or just you want to give me some alpha since it's been so long since I've had you on the show?
Yeah, I mean, I am just excited about the stability fund feature, both like how fast it went from being an idea to a proposal vote to being implemented to being live, like all within 48 hours was pretty epic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And also just, the fact that it relieves such rebalancing pressure and you can do things like, I can borrow against my ICX, mint BNUSD and deposit in Ohm and these like very low risk strategies and actually like not worry about having my loan like balloon a lot or have to really worry about my liquidation threshold and things like that as much. And yeah, being able to take advantage of these simple strategies without having to worry about rebalancing nearly as much. So I'm pretty amped about that just as a user.
Yeah, and those fees, the fees are for the stability fund. That goes to the DAO, obviously, right? And
goes to the DAO fund and stakers. Yeah, like I think
so,
it's 60-40 split, 60% to
those stakers are starting to. Oh, and look, that also. So those stakers are reaping more rewards. And finally, I guess the last part. I don't know if we have time. Yeah, we have plenty of time in my eyes. You may have to stop me, but balance the token. So this is the other big change that I wanted to pick your brain about. We're pretty close to getting. What are we calling it, Scott? See, there's so many variations now.
Boosted balance tokens.
Yes. So boosted balance. Yes. Okay. So how far away do you feel that is?
I was talking to a few community members recently, in terms of like what to prioritize post Java migration. I do think that would be one that makes sense just because it's been like talked about and it's been so long at this point. Just to like be able to deliver on that and move on. We already have like the interface and everything, so I don't have like a specific timeline because I haven't looked at it in so long. I do think that the code implementation is mostly done, but yeah, I mean it'll have to go through like rigorous testing and such. So I would say conservatively a couple of months, but that's got to be the priority. I would think post Java migration. Now that multi collateral is like less important with the stable coins, adding balance tokens as a collateral type is like pretty risky. Something we could maybe consider still. Adding other collateral. Yeah, I mean, I would say, but yeah, boosted balance tokens probably like higher priority than other collateral types at this point, and then go from there.
I think that you have the stability fund that's alleviated a lot of well, if you can use other stable and increase the supply of BUSD, you don't really need more assets. You've already indirectly added a few more assets.
Right.
So but boosted balance is good. And do you want to spend do you want to give a quick overview on why the boosted model is good for the ecosystem, and not just good for balance, but let's start with balance. Why is it good for balance? Do you want to give a quick overview how it works and why it's good for balance?
Yeah, I think I'll try and keep it pretty basic.
Yeah.
For one, like it just rewards people who are willing to lock for a longer period of time. Just a basic structure. It like aligns in like decision making becomes longer term weighted, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, it's an unknown combination of people who have a 3-day time horizon, year time horizon, but
Yeah.
you have in terms of decision making. So once you have the token model, then those who are willing, those guaranteed to be locked in for longer, have more decision making power, which makes sense. They have a longer time horizon. So I think that's clear. Obviously, the economic stuff as well. They get share of fees, and they get to boost their stake or their LP rewards and borrow rewards and all that. But I do think like the governance power is like one of the things that makes the most sense tangibly, like outside of the economics. Yeah.
And do you see so obviously when this model launched on Ethereum, it then created a whole new ecosystem of dApps, convex, and things like that
Right.
capitalize essentially trying to hoard as much of like curve so that they could control the governance, etc. Now it's funny in crypto, it's cartel. They use all these words that in traditional finance you see they're big no-nos. You go, oh, the financial can't do, but in crypto these are good things apparently. So do you envision once everyone in our ecosystem understands exactly how good and what this model does, we'll see a whole new few more dApps come out to try and capitalize to hoard these tokens?
I do think so. I mean, I don't want to like burst the bubble too much, but I think like those types, like that aspect of the boosted and like vote escrow model comes into play more once it's like reaches a greater audience and there's more at stake, right? Like who's going to be the balanced wars right now? It'll be like Ohm against balanced holders and Optimus holders, perhaps. I guess Gangsta, yeah. I mean, it could start happening of like who's incentivizing pairs the most. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but I expect these to be like more longer term things.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of more like bull market pumpamentals and like that kind of stuff. Then like I personally am most excited about the fact that like the decision making becomes more longer term focused as a DAO, and it makes sense. Like that's just an objective statement that it makes sense there. You don't have to depend on bribes and these other kind of like I said, like pumponomics.
Yeah. Because look, what I love about the model as I've started to understand it is, we say lock, but the beauty of the model is the more you lock, depending on your stack, the more rewards you get that get released to you. But when they get released, the goal there is if you want to keep competing, because everyone's doing the same thing. If you want to keep competing, it's about taking those rewards and locking it so that you don't lose your edge or how much share you have off the bonus. So now I like to stop there because at some point, say me, if I barely have anything, I could get potentially squeezed out because I'm not having that much of an impact with people who have been, say, hoarding. But this is where that convex and those other protocols spur off to go, well, you and me who have, say, 15, 15 balance, why don't you, give it to this protocol? They give you an IOU kind of token in return, but basically then they have a pooling power of governance. So all the tokens they've got together and they can then vote in accordance with, what all the individuals want, etc. So I think this is I really love that. Like once I discovered that's how it worked and I actually understood, I'm like,
very interesting.
It puts a lot.
It's interesting, like composability of like multiple apps interacting with each other and incentivizing each other. I definitely like it. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So And you know what though, and one other thing, like I was looking at it, my perspective has changed a lot in the last 2 weeks. So um, I think it's good to take the time to discover and learn with it. So if it's 2 months away, I've been thinking, well, why aren't we seeing? Where's the push? Come on, people! But you know what? It's better for people to understand it, find their way, and then build upon it
Right.
and refine it on what's already out there. So um, exciting times. Okay, so I think I said enough of balance, and just keeping an eye on time, Scott. I wanted to. I know you are now front and center with the BTP component of the product side. And just to reconfirm to everyone listening, I like to talk about BTP in two ways. There's the BTP integration, which is all the ongoing integrations Icon Bridge / BTP is being connected to the different chains. And then there's BTP product. To me, BTP product is the next version of future iterations of BTP. So there's a team in the background, which I believe is Icon Loop, is working on this aspect of it. And Scott, I understand you're front and center there, working with the team in the future iterations. How is that stuff going? Have I
Yeah,
covered
no,
that correctly, Scott? Have I
you
got
did
that right?
cover it correctly, although there were some brief internal discussions that BTP products might be a little confusing. Maybe we'll call it like BTP architecture.
Yep,
So
yep.
maybe we can start saying that, but that's a maybe. So I don't know. Mix it in. We'll see how it goes.
No,
So
but it makes
BTP
sense. Yeah.
architecture. Yeah, it does. I agree. Yeah, no, it's going great. I've been spending a lot of time on the like the BTP light paper, which is just kind of putting into words everything that's been built and then like what is being worked on. So it's like we don't really have a place right now where if there's someone new and I say and people say, well, what's BTP? How does it work? Like there's like a handful of blog posts out there, but nothing that really hits that like technical level that I really wanted in like a easy to understand way for non-technical people as well.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to release the paper. Definitely in final stages. So I've been working a lot on that, and the arbitrary call service is the other core focus of what I'm working on, and we finished the specification for that for the most part. We're talking about like edge cases, error handling, like how that should work. And arbitrary call service is the most exciting part, and that could even launch with Icon Bridge, not like in tandem with it, but we don't need full BTP 2.0 to launch the arbitrary call service.
Could
So
you
I'm
give
pretty
us?
excited about that. Yeah.
Could you give me more context? I've heard this as well. I recall it's gone from my brain. What is that service exactly? What does it do?
So it allows you to build anything on top of BTP. I'll give a very simple example is let's
Yep.
say we want to build cross-chain governance where it's balance token holders are voting for, let's say, let's say we have balance deployed on a different chain and we're voting to change the fees or something.
Yeah.
So the arbitrary call service allows you to just send data, right? It's just bytes, just raw data, and send it to a different blockchain. And what we can do is we can send someone's signature on Icon along with how many balance tokens they have or boosted balance at the time, and what their vote is, yes or no.
Yep.
And we can send that across chain using the arbitrary call service. And using that same arbitrary call service, we could do an entirely different use case because the arbitrary call service is extremely basic. It's literally just sending data from one chain to another, and then the
Yep.
individual app can build their use case around that. So,
So-
maybe for me, these zeros and ones mean a vote yes, but maybe for this other guy, it means like, whatever, like to start a trade or to read certain data to get like a Chainlink Oracle data or something. You can do whatever.
So is this similar as well than what Wonder Game is doing with their because they're using the generic messaging feature. That's different where
That is the same thing.
Okay.
But they built something very specific for Wonder Game. I'm not aware that they were using the arbitrary call service. I think they built like some version of it that works for their specific use case. I know that they built a specific service for minting NFTs on Harmony, for example.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's similar in terms of that kind of messaging gets sent across and
right. There'll never be another service AP. It'll all be the arbitrary call service, and then people will start building around that like totally permissionlessly. Like the original design was like every individual use case would need to be approved by the message centers, and now you just add one use case of arbitrary data transfer, and you can build anything around that.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. I feel it hasn't clicked, and I haven't had my mental explosion yet. But so
Okay, all right.
so but uh, so the team has kind of built that, and what you're saying is when it's done, it'll just get shipped, and Icon Bridge will be able to adopt it as well. So
Right.
connections with Binance Smart Chain and Harmony, etc., will be
Harmony,
able
yeah.
to straight away utilize stuff like this.
Yeah, and balanced, they'll be able to utilize it. Like I'm starting to plan high level, like how will allow people to use their Harmony tokens as collateral on balance, like what the architecture for that should be. We could build that with the arbitrary call service to allow them to mint BNUSD from their MetaMask wallet on Harmony by just sending data from Harmony to Icon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still looking for that click moment on you, Fez, but yeah, but yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
no, no.
yeah, like
I
a
I
bunch of
wanted
different
to.
use cases in the
I,
pipeline there.
so in that case, what you were just talking about, would that happen, and the collateral actually gets locked on their chain in terms of, so say currently using the bridge, I would use Harmony's one token across, then it would be a tokenized version of it, obviously on the Icon blockchain. Then if it was added as balanced collateral, I would then put it and mint BNUSD.
Right.
But what you're saying is we wouldn't need to even do the token transfer. Essentially, it could just
That's right.
be through the app. It locks it, say in connecting the metaverse, just locks it, and the app is registered that this is the one token used for collateral.
Yeah, so with the arbitrary call service, what we could do is lock the collateral on Harmony.
Yeah.
And then the user would send data across using the arbitrary call service, and it would say like they've locked this many tokens and they're trying to mint this much BNUSD, and then the BNUSD contract would be like, all right, yeah, I trust this data, and yeah, and they'd be able to mint the BNUSD on the Icon side, all through them using MetaMask. Like one thing I want to try and do is build these cross-chain apps in such a way that the users of their native blockchain they don't have to change anything. They don't have to download a new wallet. They don't have to get familiar with anything new. They can just continue as normal.
Yeah, no, I was having something. I was worried my dog was going to take off, and then while you were saying it was clicking and it was all happening, and I wanted to talk through it. And yes, okay, that's brilliant. So, from a risk perspective, then, because does this mitigate any risks compared to locking and minting the token and having? Does it help in security wise, or is it just another way of doing things?
Yeah, so I'm still thinking through like the best architecture with the smart contract devs. Like my original plan was to have all the collateral, like deploy a collateral contract on every BTP connected chain, and allow people to mint BNUSD on their chain. And the only like BTP component would be minting and burning, or transferring BNUSD between networks, right? We would be able to burn it on one chain, mint it on the other side. And like that was my original plan. But then you're like managing so many smart contracts and so many different networks. Another thing that we could potentially do that one of the developers recommended to me is keep all the logic, all the core logic on Icon, including like sending Harmony tokens like to Icon, like keeping it on the Icon side like wrap tokens, but allowing users to still sign transactions using MetaMask. So they could say like from the Harmony blockchain, they could sign an intention to mint BNUSD, and then they can pass that using BTP from Harmony to Icon, and they get the user experience of using their own blockchain. But in reality, it's just they're using BTP to pass data from their blockchain to Icon, and everything actually happens on Icon. So if I can get that to be a good user experience, that's the safest probably from a smart contract standpoint, because you only have one set of smart contracts. You don't have to worry about getting attacked from like 100 different angles. One thing going wrong on one chain that ruins everything, like that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. What about
so there's a couple different ways? Yeah.
Yeah, no. Then, so for example, sometimes we miss out on a lot of things that, like, there's Snapshot or something where voting, like community voting platforms that are built and they're very compatible with the EVM style um,
Right.
chains. Could this call essentially enable us to interact with those platforms in a community governance fashion? If an idea was thought of, like, I created an iron icon, I don't know, and used one of their services. Or am I getting too ahead of myself? Or
No, I do think like I still need to like really sit down and sketch this out, but
Hmm.
I'm starting to feel like we can allow people to write like make signatures on their original chain that they're used to,
Yep.
but pass their signatures using BTP over to Icon and have it like do something on Icon. So
Yep.
essentially allowing people to still use MetaMask but interact with Icon. So yes, that would allow like Snapshot. You could sign something using your Snapshot wallet or whatever, like your MetaMask that you signed into Snapshot with. You could sign it, and then
Yeah.
we can pass that signature over to Icon.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You caught on. That's exactly. So as soon as you
Yeah.
started saying it, this was in my brain, because a few times I've gone there and I thought, oh, this would be cool to do. But okay,
Yeah, I
that's
need to
great.
think about like the implications there of like how to build cross chain architectures.
Yeah. Yeah. Then, so finally, now just quickly touching on, so how is work going on the gas issue? Like, since it's quite well known, are
Right.
we making some inroads on some solutions there?
Yeah, so development has started. The solutions are scoped out, designed, finalized in terms of architecture, and development has started. Not going to leak any timeframes or anything on
No.
here. Not going to set any expectations, but yeah, everything is in motion. Developers are making progress. The testing for these things is going to be very rigorous because it touches core blockchain components to Icon, right?
Okay.
Like we don't want to make a mistake there and have any yeah, so whatever, you get the point. It's core
Yeah. Okay.
blockchain stuff. It's
So,
one thing if it's a smart contract, but then if we do something that can take down the entire Icon blockchain, that's pretty devastating. So
yeah. No. So,
um
yeah,
yeah,
as long as there's a solution and teams working on it, it's good to hear.
yep.
Okay, there was the gas, and was there anything else? So, finally, I wanted to ask you, like, that's a solid update. I've learned a lot around BTP. I'm pretty sure everyone will be excited to hear that as well. Now, because we're using Orbit Bridge, and literally, I feel we're days away or weeks away. Let's say weeks. So when it becomes days, everyone's happy. Weeks away from Icon Bridge launching. We know it's going to be launch, and then it'll be going through audits, etc. Once all that's done, do you envision a little bit of a move away from Orbit Bridge, as in IUSDC, and migrating those tokens and having that come through Icon Bridge? Will we have a process, or will it just be the manual process of people taking the asset back and then moving it the other way?
I do think it'll be a manual process, unfortunately, but it'll be an incentivized manual process where you'll probably stop earning very much money using IUSDC and start earning like balance tokens and things like that
Yeah.
for other stablecoins from other networks or whatever other tokens from other networks
Yeah.
through the Icon Bridge.
Cool. Okay, look, that's it, Scott. I keep saying little more. I keep getting sidetracked questions, but thank you, man. Really appreciate you coming on the show. I've learned a lot personally today. I really wanted to get a lot about the Stability Fund, and I did. So I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Right back at you, Fez. Thanks for having me.
Cool. Take care.